Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by my channel. I'm Jennifer Woods, and today I will be giving a review on the 2001 movie Another Day, starring Shannen Doherty and Julian MacMahon. Both of them sadly passed away of cancer within a year of each other. MacMahon passed away earlier this month, and Doherty passed on in July 2024. I had never heard of this movie until about a year ago, and I wanted to check it out. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel to keep up to date on my latest videos. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Have you seen this movie? What did you think? Shannen Doherty plays a woman named Kate who has a best friend named David, played by Julian MacMahon, and is in a relationship with a man named Paul. She and Paul work together at a factory. Kate plans to go into medicine and is excited to get an acceptance letter to med school. I just want to note that at first, when she was talking about getting something, which turned out to be the letter, I thought she was talking about getting her period, and that she'd just had a pregnancy scare. That's funny because soon after, she does discover that she's pregnant and is not happy about it because it will derail her plans. Paul, on the other hand, believes they can make it work, but Kate drives off in a huff. She wants to clear her head and get some distance. Once she realizes that she's made an ass of herself, she turns around and heads home. And that's when she sees that the factory is on fire. Paul is still trapped inside. He dies. Of course, she's probably to blame for driving away mad. That's the worst thing you could do in a TV movie. The sheriff's office calls Kate to let her know they're working under the assumption that Paul set the fire, but Kate can't believe that could possibly be true. Her baby is eventually born, and she names her Megan. She and her best friend David from childhood start to get really close, and he acts like a second parent to her daughter. Years pass rapidly, and Megan is 4 now. Kate gets an acceptance letter to an accounting program. David doesn't like that she's setting aside her dreams of going into medicine. She's like, "Oh yeah, well, you're an artist who paints houses for a living, so don't talk to me about settling." And he's like, "Fair." Her daughter apparently has a stuffed toy named Mr. Poopy that she takes to bed, so there's that small detail that I'm so glad they included. David talks to Kate about the fact that he's planning on moving to Chicago to pursue his dreams. He wants Kate to come with him. Kate seems hesitant, but then Paul's gravestone gets vandalized again. She figures out it's probably this woman named Gabby, whose husband was injured in the fire, and blames Paul for that. So David tells her maybe it is time to move on. Not sure why it took 4 years for all of this to come to a head, but there you go. Maybe they needed this conversation to occur when Megan was old enough that she could walk into the river and get swept away while David and Kate chase after her, because that's what happens next. But first, David talks about the time he and Kate were together on the day that Paul died. And Kate's like, "What are you talking about? I was alone on the road all day." And he's like, "No, you were with me and gave me this necklace I'm wearing." She's like, "No, I made that necklace with Megan just last week." So it's pretty obvious this is going to be one of those weird alternate universe stories. And then Megan falls into the river, which I predicted as soon as she started inching toward it while the adults weren't looking. When she screams for help, both Kate and David jump in after her and get swept down a waterfall. You have to have a waterfall, otherwise it's not as high stakes. Kate begins to drown, but eventually washes up on shore. It's the scene from the beginning of the movie. These TV movies love to begin with a scene from later on in the movie and then work backward. When Kate washes up on shore, she's rescued by 2 men in a boat. One of them is Paul, but he's supposed to be dead. He and David don't know who she's talking about when she asks for Megan. Apparently, that's also the name of her late mother. She makes a stop at the graveyard where Paul's gravestone is supposed to be, but surprise, surprise, it's not there because he's standing beside her in the flesh. She comes to the conclusion that she's traveled to the future and is back in the past now. Not sure how she came to that conclusion. Weird things happen in life to all of us, and we might ponder if there's another version of ourselves out there for a few minutes or so. But we usually shrug it off and move on. She warns Paul not to go to the factory the next day because she doesn't want him to go and die on her. He must be really confused, but he agrees. The next day, she can't find him and is concerned, and she and her friend David go looking for him. Remember when Kate and David were having a discussion next to the river right before Megan fell in? In the alternate reality, which I guess was supposed to be the future, this is exactly what he told her they did, but she denied it. So apparently there is more than one timeline going on here. And Kate does some stupid things trying to work all of this out, like go into a factory that she knows is about to burn down, and find out who the actual person was who started the fire. and nearly get herself killed. But apparently, no matter what timeline she's in, Paul ends up dying, and she ends up with David raising Megan. So, some thoughts I had about this movie. It reminds me a lot of another Julian MacMahon movie called Premonition, starring Sandra Bullock as a woman whose husband dies in a car crash, or does he? She finds herself reliving his final days and trying to alter destiny to keep him alive. Another Day also reminds me of movies like Life Before Her Eyes, starring Evan Rachel Wood and Uma Thurman, The Butterfly Effect, starring Ashton Kutcher and Amy Smart, and Donnie Darko, starring Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal, as well as Jenna Malone. I really didn't care for Another Day, though, whereas I did like the other movies. In Another Day, I really wasn't sure what the point was and why she kept drowning in the river and then washing up on shore to a new reality. In every reality, Paul was either dead or about to die, and David was there, wanting to be with her, so what did it really matter? The lesson she claims to have learned in the end is that you can't change the past, only the future. But it seems like it's actually the reverse that's true. She's constantly changing the past, only to arrive at the same destination. Of all the multiple timeline alternate reality movies out there that I've seen, this one is the least effective in my opinion, unless I missed something. I have to admit, I was basically just watching for Shannen Doherty and Julian MacMahon, wanting them to get together, and I guess the Paul character just had to die so that my wish could be granted. But don't go into this expecting a lot of action between them, because there's really not much more than a couple of quick kisses. And I just wanted to add that I hated the voiceover. I didn't think it was necessary, or at the very least, it didn't need to be used as a crutch to avoid showing through action. There would be times when it would show Kate doing something, like going to the graveyard to visit with her dead Paul, and the voiceover would say that she still thought a lot about Paul, and I'm like, duh, that's why she's visiting his gravestone. So that annoyed me. Overall, I would give this movie a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It was very average. But it's sad to know that Doherty and MacMahon would both end up dying young, in their 50s, within a year of each other. I hope they are at peace and have connected on the other side. So that's all I've got today. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you join me next time.